Slush is very, very low on units, only has 4 Mutalisks out right now, and is just trying as hard as he can to deny scouting and get this expansion up. We do see a Spire is going down in Slush's main. Slush is hoping that he can swing ahead with another big, huge Mutalisk count and force his opponent to begin making too many Marauders, but God, the Marine count of Last Shadow is just so high right now. I think it's going to be very tough to win with Mutas.
Yeah, this is a really funky game from both players. I mean, that last attack, it almost ended the game right there, but that Mutalisk timing was just so key and allowed Slush to go ahead and stay in this game. And now he's got some map control with only 4 Mutalisks, but I mean, Last Shadow has quite an army right now with a ton of Marines. If he were to push any moment now, I definitely think he would be taking this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is still a very tenuous situation for both players. I mean, Last Shadow really doesn't want to move out because it's just so dangerous because, again, he doesn't know. Going to Last Shadow's camera view, this one SCV and these Reapers are really all he knows about, and he knows an expansion was thrown down, but he doesn't see that there's this Spire that's been made. So going for a drop, it looks like he's just going to try to swing in and take out this layer that's only at 100 life. Oh, no, that could be so big if he takes it out, but the Mutalisk looks like they're somehow going to be really close to seeing it. Is he actually going to see it? Is he actually going to swing by it? No, Last Shadow. Oh no, he's going to be able to take out the layer. That's going to be such a huge victory.
Last Shadow actually re-rallied that medevac to move a little bit closer to the edge of the map. That's so smart. And oh my God, he's got to go back for what he tried to finish off right here. 100 HP. That is going to fall so fast. Here come the Marauders dropping.
Oh my God,
I am so worried. There's
running
the stim.
Oh, and there's the shots going out 55, and he takes out the layer. That is another huge hit, and good game.
Good game.
Slush had such a fragile position, and it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be heartbreaking, really. Slush, the only Zerg left in this tournament. Now he's going to be in the loser bracket fighting for his life here. I'm not sure who he's actually going to be up against in the loser bracket. We'll definitely look at the brackets here in just a moment. But, Sean, I got to ask you a question, and I think we have something for that. So I hope that we've got this ready for you. I'm very excited about this.
What is this question?
All right, I guess we got to wait a little bit, but maybe we'll try to set that up here in just a second. Actually, I think if you can alt-tab, we can go to that Ask the Cast thread.
Oh, the Ask the Cast thread. This is awesome. Which one? Which question am I supposed to be doing?
Let's actually hit refresh.
Because for any of you who didn't know, there's, of course, the Ask the Caster thread on MLGpro.com. So you should definitely go in there and post your questions. And apparently, is there one I'm supposed to answer? A key important question?
Let's actually go to the 7th page and just start pulling some questions here.
7th page, let's go ahead and grab some of those. And I did want to, again, point out how Last Shadow is having the hardest lineup in this tournament and just keeps winning games. Unbelievable. Just so good. Let's see. Let us continue scrolling down. I want you to vamp for a minute, and I will select a good question.
All right, so yeah. Looking at this tournament, we are in the getting later and later. We do have the finals coming up today at 5:30. So we are quickly approaching that. It's at about noon here Eastern time in North Carolina, in Raleigh. And looks like I think you found a question. So
I did. I totally highlighted it here to notify JP. Brad Rapp asks, when we see Zerg players in top tournaments, such as here and as well as at other live LAN events, why do many of them neglect the burrow ability? Surely it has the potential to set up some awesome ambushes or hide your main army from a scouting worker in the mid-late game. I definitely think that that's one of those underused abilities because I think people are still trying to figure out what the right mixes are.
Right.
For instance, like Katz did do that burrow rush against LZ Gamer with the Infestors. He killed off a ton of SCVs. He started launching the Infested Terrans at the natural expansion, and it did a good bit of damage, but it's fragile. What if your opponent scouts your going Infestors on one base and just builds a missile turret? Suddenly that burrow is useless. But Roach Burrow, I think, is something that's been underused quite a bit.
You know, it's kind of funny, actually, because in the beta, we casted a lot of matches with Slush, and he was one of those Zerg users that was actually utilizing the Roach Burrow movement early on. And he was kind of the only one doing that. And I believe that there was a patch that came through earlier on in the beta and actually made that a little bit worse. I think it maybe was the Roach not being able to go under force fields, and that did get reverted, if I am correct.
Yeah.
So.
I really like using Roaches to get under Burrow. I really like, especially that Terrans neglect Ravens against Zerg, and using Roach Burrow to pop up under tanks. I've lost many a game as a result of that. And here's another good question by Akabane101, who says, how many games should be played via practice before tournament to get you prepared enough? Honestly, the more the merrier.
As many as you can.
And okay, now here's something that's so key. This is what really separates the tournament level players from your just average diamond level player. Even diamond players who are in like the top 5. A lot of people like playing to win. They like having fun games. They'll say, oh, Terran vs Protoss, I hate this matchup. And then if they lose, they'll go, I hope I play another Terran vs Zerg soon.
Yeah.
What the good players do is play their bad matchups. If they're awful at Terran versus Protoss, they're only going to play Terran versus Protoss. And I would say you really need several hours a day at least, probably 8 or 9 hours a day at least, just constantly going through those builds again and again and again for weeks to be able to play competently.
When you say play, it's not like, oh, I'm going to sit down and play 3 or 4 games. It's about, I'm going to sit down and play about 50 games of that one matchup, just nonstop playing. Usually you have practice partners, and I know that's something that you advocate a lot in your Day 9 dailies.
It's so big. I mean, I don't think people value practice partners enough until they start going to major tournaments. And because, you know, another thing about practice, you need to practice one build a lot of times. For instance, who was the player in Control? Yeah, who actually we casted earlier today.
Right.
Did 3 completely different builds. And from an observer standpoint, it might just look like he loaded up the game and thought, I'm going Void Ray this game. Phoenixes, why not? But really, he practiced that Phoenix Colossus build hundreds of times and practiced that Void Ray build hundreds of times.
Right.
And that is what's really key. Not variety, but practice, practice, practice. You need a lot of games just under your belt for all gameplay.
Indeed. So let's see if there are any more questions. I like that one. What do you think about 5 pooling?
I think it's awesome. I love killing one of my drones right off the bat, then mining minerals, and then pooling because it gives me that nice nostalgic B-dub feeling.
Yeah, 5 pooling actually doesn't work, but you can 10 pool and actually safely transition out of that. It's somewhat of a strong. It's kind of risky, obviously, because if your opponent does stop that, you're going to be a little bit behind, but it's somewhat viable still.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we do have this good question by Dirty, who was actually seconded by Earn, who says, what is the #1 thing that separates these mid-level Diamond players from the players here in this tournament? There's a lot of no-names who are extremely good. We've even seen players like El Paramedico, kind of unknown, doing very, very well in this tournament. But what is it that separates them from these tip-top tier players like QXC, like Slush, like Last Shadow? And again, the focus is so much on refinement. It's on that little tiny things. Great example. If you watch a really good player do an early expand in Terran versus Protoss, I'm talking about your mid-high level Diamond player. Not best of the best, but really good. They'll get their Marauders out, they'll get their Marines out, they'll have a good push, they'll have some of those upgrades going. It will look pretty solid. And when you watch a player like QXC, like LZ Gamer, do that same build, it's easy to just sort of glance at it and go, oh, same thing's going on here. But mysteriously, QXC's getting that expansion up a minute earlier. He has 12 more Marines than you would at the 10-minute mark.
Right.
And it's all because they never forget an SCV. They never forget to make a Marine right when another Marine finishes. They're never queuing up things and wasting money. And that is why practice is so key, so you don't make those little mistakes. So much of it is making your hands do what you want your brain to do.
Yeah, it's really learning the mechanics before going out there and actually doing anything crazy in the game. I mean, the thing that fascinates me is the fact that they can do all of that base control, do everything right, making SCVs, making drones if you're Zerg, doing everything right, and harassing at the same time, and keeping your opponent in check, and also making sure that he's somewhat going to be really nervous. I mean, we saw that last game where Slush had to make a decision as if he was going to power more Lings and Roaches or power drones, and he made the right decision right there by making Lings and Roaches to go ahead and hold off that first attack and actually attack against Last Shadow. And really, it's decisions like that where playing countless games, it really becomes like second nature. It's not really a big decision in their head. It's not like, oh God, what am I supposed to do right here? It's, oh, okay, I know exactly what to do right here.
This is what practice has taught me.
Indeed.
Because too often players have this magical fantasy that there's the StarCraft player who's just so good that suddenly he just has epiphany after epiphany in games and just spurts out the correct answer. It's really 99% practice. I think rarely ever you'll see a player say, wow, I was in this weird spot and I made the right choice and it's never going to happen again. It's always, I've been in that situation a million times and I know this is the right one to do.
Indeed, indeed. So looks like we are going to be looking over the bracket. I see some admins over there, and I'm very excited because that last winners round, Chthonlok versus Ruby.
Yeah, this is so insane set of games. I want to cast all of them, but of course we have to finish the tournament on time. It's really rude of MLG to stick to a schedule and not appease me, the caster.
But yeah, we had Chthonlok versus Ruby. I'm not sure if that was actually finished. Let me actually alt-tab and check that out. Do you have any more questions from that thread?
Yeah, sure, from Dr. Canada. Well, I assume that's the correct pronunciation. It says, what is your favorite game you casted, or what would be your favorite game you think? You know, now, you heard me say that I think Greetorp was probably the best player at this tournament. He was eliminated by Mask due to just one fundamental error. Greetorp had a huge lead. He had all these expansions. He had a huge Marauder army. But Mask just basically said the only way I can win is if I get a lot of Banshees and hope that Greetorp doesn't get any Thors or anti-air. And that's what happened. It was a little bit of a slip up, but still, if I had to pick a favorite game, it would be Greetorp versus Silver Game 1 on Steps of War, because Greetorp just played so beautifully. It wasn't a dull, boring Terran versus Terran. It was really dynamic, a lot of amazing control. And we'll be back in a little bit with some more winners bracket action here at MLG after a short commercial break.